going on, everybody? I'm too stupid to win, and I'm joined by Mars, Utah. And welcome to Legit Fired Up. What's going on,
Yeah,
Mars?
excited to be here. Yeah, fired up, legit. We've been talking about doing some stuff like this for a while, so yeah, super pumped for this first episode we got here.
Yeah, we talk back and forth talking about, we got our football knowledge. We play fantasy football, daily fantasy sports, and we were looking for some avenue to convey our knowledge that was different from what was going on. And, we have these NFLPA legits going on in Upland. And we thought, what better way is to help the community that doesn't know about American football, or people that are into collecting and not that great on football, to help identify some places to target the best memento in NFLPA shops on Sundays and Monday nights, and where you get the best opportunity to get multiple fire stats.
Yeah, it's always hard to track down. It's figuring out those fire stats and a lot to decipher. And like you said, a lot of the upland community is from other places besides the U.S. So I can only imagine the complexity of trying to understand this as we dive into football/soccer on our end of things here.
Yeah, and I mean, you even mentioned, and I realized it too when we were doing research for this, how what we would think would be a good play in daily fantasy football is a little bit different of what could earn you a fire stat on your NFLPA legits, um, depending on the position and just some of the stats that you usually don't track or think about when selecting plays.
Yeah, the 4 categories that you get for, kind of position group, is interesting, and some very specific niche things that you don't worry about in other fantasy sports. Like, longest, run or longest catch, for instance, which usually adds up to good stats, but on its own isn't really something you're adding into the equation too much,
Now,
different things like that.
and that makes it really interesting performing the research for this little episode. We're going to try to keep these 15-20 minutes. We'll cover some news that we feel that's important, any injuries or injuries to watch and monitor, because what those do is give you the opportunity to maybe get a lower price person in that position filling in for a starter, and so you can spend less UpX to get legit that has a lot of fire stats because they end up filling in for the week. We hope to help identify those for you, and then we'll have some insights on players. And my favorite thing that I'm excited about is picking our long snapper. So I'm going to pick my favorite long snapper for a chance of fire stats, and Mars is going to pick a long snapper.
Yeah, another part of legits here is that they did not skip a position on the field. I think actually kick returner, I think, is the only one left out of the bunch. So they even have fire stats for punters to consider if you want to really dig into how much you want to get into obtaining these fire stats.
Yeah. Now, I know for this first episode, I didn't do the best on defense. I'm still trying to get that kind of whittled down, and understand the defense and fire and how we can best address that on the show. How are you on research and defense this week?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's going to be a combination of a team and the individual, which, is different from when you think about the individual defender, because one of the stats is yards allowed, and I don't know how you attribute that to individual defensive ends, so that's got to be a team stat. And so you really want to pick the players who are going to get sacks or forced fumbles, interceptions, most amount of tackles, from those teams that are also going to allow a low amount of yardage.
Yeah, and right there, that kind of takes out, if you're going for a fire stat on the low amount of yardage, that takes out a handful of teams just because their defense has been riddled with injuries or poor schemes, or just a bad defense overall. So we'll
Yeah,
work
yeah.
that into the remaining weeks of the season.
No, when I
Go
started to
ahead.
look at it, it came apparent there. that there's a lot of defensive players each year who get tons of sacks and flashy plays, but their defense as a whole gives up a ton of yards. So if you're looking to get all four categories, you really got to take that into account.
Yeah. All right, we'll jump right into the week 11 injury report, and we'll improve the graphics as the week goes on. This is what, in my spare time between the Epics podcast and this, that I was able to put together for the week. So did not practice some of the key names that were out there this week. Jerry Jeudy from the Denver Broncos, he's not going to be playing for a couple of weeks. Jamar Chase, he's looking to return in week 14. And Zach Ertz is done for the year. J.K. Dobbins, I didn't put on the list. He's been out for a few weeks. He should be returning in about week 14. Any other?
I was going to say Zach Ertz is a big one because if you're a fan of tight ends, it's not a big pool. So losing another one there.
No, not at all. And this week, what we're looking at limited in practice as of today. Some reports are starting to come in now, but when we put this together, you have a list right here of these individuals to watch. And some of them, like DeAndre Hopkins, Juju, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown, those individuals, they might have some low-level injuries that they're taking it easy on practice, but they should be good to go on game day. It will be something to watch on Sundays.
Yeah, a couple interesting things there, especially Ezekiel Elliott. We may get into that a little bit, but with some of the categories for running backs, if Tony Pollard gets the full run there, that might be a good one to chase. So definitely pay attention.
And I think even with Ezekiel Elliott back, Pollard's still going to see a good 15 to 20 touches a game in some way, shape, or form. And he's averaging something insane like 6 yards a carry right now. So that's definitely something to watch. And I wouldn't be scared off even if Zeke came back.
Yeah, the only thing staying in your way is Jerry Jones and his seemingly irrational love of Ezekiel Elliott.
Ooh, good point there. Good point there.
So
All
yeah, they
right.
should be passing the
So
torch.
yeah, I know they gave Zeke a bunch of money and it's an investment, but sometimes it's just your investment turns bad after a while and you got to cut it go. You got to let it go. Now, here's some of the games this week that are going to score over 45 points. So the estimates do come from Vegas. Vegas lines are pretty decent, pretty accurate. They get you right around there, pretty close to these numbers. And why we pick these games that score over 45 points is just you have the ability for high scores. High scores lead to a lot of stats. A lot of stats come from yards, big pass plays, big run plays, multiple touchdowns. So this is a good chance here to really target players in certain positions from these games to help improve your chances of getting multiple fire stats.
Yeah, it's you want to get those points on the board, and this year that's becoming increasingly rare. I'm actually kind of surprised to see this many high lines this week. So we got some good matchups here to get some fire stats for offensive players for sure. Because yeah, scoring's been down across the board in the NFL this year.
It has. And then the big news is the Cleveland Browns at Buffalo Bills. Buffalo's getting 6 feet of snow. So they moved that game to Detroit this week. So they're going to be on turf in the dome, non-weather affected. So I would expect some big splash explosive plays from both sides here.
Yeah, that does change it quite a bit going from trudging through the snows of Buffalo. I've been to that stadium, and you definitely know you're outside in the winter in that joint. So heading over to Detroit is going to be a good time.
Yeah.
It should.
Now, what players are you looking at this week?
So let's see. I kind of went through with the quarterbacks, and like you said, with the interesting categories that we have here, the very specific 4 ratings for the fire stats. Um, kind of the always the tried and true at quarterback. I would say Patrick Mahomes. No secret there, but they're going against the Chargers, and so he should be able to put up all of those categories. And honestly, I think maybe a good sleeper, if you're trying to get your hands on somebody that the others aren't going for, might be Taylor Heineke versus the Texans. Just looking at the categories on the board there.
Yeah, that is a sneaky play this week.
And we have Justin Herbert right back at the Chiefs is a good play, and then running backs going through seem to take the cake this week with the amount of buys that we're dealing with. I don't know what you
So
feel.
did you not think Justin Fields against the Atlanta Falcons would be a solid play?
Considering the format here, I don't lean that way. I think in fantasy, we'd be all over Justin Fields, but it's specifically for the fire stat, it's passing yards. And so the things
Yeah.
that players like Justin Fields and Lamar and the rest of those guys do best is a lot of rushing yards, so you will get the total touchdowns, but um, the passing yardage might not be impressive enough to get on fire.
I mean, they're allowing 7.4 yards an attempt and over 2,800 yards so far this season with 15 touchdowns. So I think he could see elevated yards, and this could turn into a shootout. So I could see him airing it out and maybe pushing 250, 300 yards, which would be huge for him this week.
Yeah, I mean the
And if you can't
defenses.
tell, I'm bullish.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, but also, this Falcons Bears matchup reminds me of an Army Navy game where it will probably be lucky to see double digit throws on either side. So, it's definitely favorable to throw against, but neither of them want to throw. So it's a very interesting scenario.
That is a valid point too. So, yeah, I'm ready to move into running backs now. What you got? What are you looking at there, running back wise?
Yeah, so there's a few good plays here. Saquon, I think against the Lions is probably the A number one if you're looking for your best shot at a home run. You know, Damian Pierce against the
And that would
Commanders.
be that would be Saquon Barkley from the New York Giants. Remember, we might have individuals that aren't that familiar, so we're familiar where they play. So we'll make sure everybody understands the teams that they're playing for and their full name, so it makes it easier to find for you on game day.
Yeah, thanks for keeping me on track there. I know that our guy Saquon Barkley has a house in Upland, so we're on a first name basis, I guess. Just yeah, used to
There
just
you go.
just talking sports with you here, and now we got the
Oh, I know.
official.
Yeah.
So we have Damian Pierce from the Houston Texans. I think his matchup with Washington could be favorable. He's busted a lot of long rushes, so he has a good chance to be a running back that'll be explosive enough to get a fire stat in the longest rush category. And also as we said, Tony Pollard I think is a good play. And yeah, a few others, a lot more at running back I think this week.
No, I think, and I do think Cordell Patterson has a chance to break a long one off against Chicago also.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Like I said, I foresee a lot more running in that game than you do, so that would be a very good play to pick some runners in the Bears Falcons game. I wouldn't be surprised to see David Montgomery for the Bears put up some yardage either. So that's kind of what I was saying. As things, the schedule and the bye weeks are lining up here, it looks like a lot of running backs have room to hit the fire stats this week.
And Nick Chubb has 10 plus 20-yard rushes this year, and Buffalo isn't as strong as it used to be against the run. So there's a potential of Nick Chubb popping off a couple long ones. He's had a season long of 41. Next after that, Damian Pierce has hit 8 over 20 plus. So, but he's had a 79-yard run this year, or 75-yard run. So, hey, a lot of good running backs.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I mean when I was sorting through the categories. And basically the way the fire stats, the four categories break out on your offense. You kind of have your ball carriers, your running backs, and then your pass catchers because wide receivers and tight ends both have the same categories, and it just looks like your running backs have a lot of guys are looking interesting this week.
Yes, they do. All right, moving on to wide receiver. What are your thoughts this week on wide receiver?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the tried and trues. Justin Jefferson and Stefan Diggs are playing a lot of the top end guys are on the bye week with Miami out. So Justin Jefferson for Minnesota, they're going against the Cowboys, and Stefan Diggs for Buffalo. As we've talked about, they'll be in the dome now going against the Browns. So they should be able to air it out there. And looking at the group as pass catchers, actually, my number one guy this week is Travis Kelsey, the tight end for the Chiefs. I think he's going to put up some numbers.
Yeah, he's got a pretty strong matchup, and I think they're going to go back to feeding him. He's had a couple down weeks right there, but I think they're going back to feeding him. Other people that I did like this week is AJ Brown from the Philadelphia Eagles. He's had 13 catches of 20 yards plus, along with Devontae Adams. He's had 14 of 20 yards plus, and scary Terry McLaurin from the Washington Commanders has also had 14, and I think he's got a good chance this week too to put up a pull in a long pass or two.
Yeah, he seems to have a much better connection with Taylor Heineke than he did with Carson Wentz. So things are looking up for Scary Terry. And I did have one sleeper. If you're in the queue and you don't get your hands on these guys, or you want to take a shot at someone a little lower down the board, I like Rondell Moore of the Arizona Cardinals
Ooh.
versus the 49ers. They've, for the last 3 or 4 weeks, have been just force feeding him targets, and he's the kind of guy who can get out in space and maybe break you a long reception and hit a lot of the benchmarks you're looking for here.
Yeah, that's a good one. He's got that speed. He's got that scheme that gets the ball out quick, puts him in space, and uses that speed to his advantage, where he could really rack up the yards after the catch to either take it to the house, get you a multi-touchdown game, and get you those long receptions. So definitely good call there. I do like that. I didn't look at a sleeper this week. I didn't think of that, so I'll put it on my research for the following week.
Yeah,
Um,
just kind
you
of,
got
as we've been saying, once I really, dove into what you're looking for the fire stats, these kind of niche players jump out at you a little bit. I had another one too, Gabe Davis, the Buffalo Bills. I think that could be a track meet, so he might be a good play for you too.
yeah. And if you're looking for punters, you have Ryan Stonehouse or Tommy Townsend. They've been just booming the ball this year, and
Yeah,
also AJ Cole.
AJ Cole. I'm also a fan of Tress Way of the Washington Commanders. I don't know if it's just a
Okay.
fun name to say, but yeah, I'm a Tennessee Titans fan. Got my Derrick Henry on, so always a fan of Ryan Stonehouse.
Yeah. I'll pull out my Chubb jersey for next week's episode. Um, all right. And then to our fun segment is your favorite long snapper of the week.
Yeah, yeah. So as we look at the games and just the traditional, well, just to tell you what you're looking for in a fire long snapper, so you want a guy who's basically working with a good kicker. You want the longest field goals made, extra points made, and longest punt. So it's that team that has two good kickers, a kicker and a punter. So I think my favorite long snapper this week is probably going to be Nick Moore from the Baltimore Ravens, working with legendary Justin Tucker as a kicker who loves to boom the long ones. So just kind of taking the easy pick this first time around in the long snapper category.
So I'm going to go off the board here, going back to a team that we've actually talked more than I really thought we were going to talk about this week. And it's the Cheese Man himself from the Washington Commanders, Cameron Cheeseman. He's got Joey Sly as his kicker, and he has Tress Way as the punter. So that goes with one of your punters right there. So I'm going with Cameron Cheeseman as my long snapper of the week.
That is perfect. You know, he is actually I still print out stuff because I like to read it. And yeah, you're not gonna see it, but we got Nick Moore and Cameron Cheeseman down there for my top long snappers this week, which is just an amazing category that you don't get to talk about enough.
No, and I think it's kind of funny is we came up with this category. You don't get to talk about it, but we both had the cheese man on our list, and we didn't even discuss this pre-show or anything.
I see we're gonna have a good time here doing the legit fired up. So yeah,
Absolutely.
it was interesting diving into the first week of real research here and getting the head wrapped around how to find guys who are gonna get you legit fired up in your memento collection experience.
Yes. Definitely let us know in the comments what you want to see, questions that you want to have answered on the show. This is a work in progress. This was something we just dreamed up over the last 2 weeks. So this is definitely something we'll look for the what you guys suggest, want to know. We'll help incorporate it. And we look to get better each and every week to get you those multiple fire stat legits. Until next week, everybody be safe, have fun. We'll see you in the metaverse. And we might even, Mars is even saying that he might even have a rap for our intro song to this already. He heard the beat today and he was loving it already.
Yeah, I think the spirit moved me, so we'll see how long it takes to pump that sucker out. But yeah,
Outstanding. All
good
right, Mars,
time.
this has been a pleasure. Look forward to the rest of the season doing this, my friend.
Yeah, you too. Good luck out there, everybody in the metaverse. Have a good football weekend.
Yep.